Friends of Formula One, Ferrari is pushing incredibly hard on the dyno test for the ADUO 2 engine, set to make its debut at the Temple of Speed in Monza. And right now, I'm going to tell you exactly why the prancing horse holds a massive strategic advantage over Mercedes, thanks to the power unit penalty situation. Enrico Gualtieri and his team are working at an absolutely relentless pace to guarantee the reliability of the new 0676 engine. With substantial changes to the combustion chamber, designed to push intake temperatures even further, and a completely rethought turbocharger where the snail housing will keep its traditionally small diameter. But the number and angle of the blades will change for better high-rev filling. The declared goal is to close the power gap to Mercedes on the straights in a meaningful way. But the real bombshell is that Mercedes is now scrambling to put together their own engine counter response because they've earned the right to an ADUO update since the Federation's reference power unit is the Red Bull Ford 6-cylinder. And over in Brixworth, engineers led by Hywell Thomas are working on a new combustion chamber, a new turbo, and even a new Petronas fuel blend. The real twist in this story is the penalty situation, which paradoxically hurts Mercedes far more than Ferrari. Both Andrea Kimi Antonelli and George Russell have already used up all 4 power units allowed by the regulations for the entire championship, meaning any single replacement would cost them a brutal 20-place grid penalty, while Ferrari, with only 3 engines punched so far, can introduce the ADUO 2 without paying virtually any penalty at all. And here's the most beautiful paradox of all. Mercedes, leading the championship, is technically in a very fragile position with 3 cooked batteries, 1 broken engine, and several energy management bugs, while Ferrari is rock solid and can fully exploit the clear chassis and aerodynamic superiority of the SF26. If you don't want to miss a single update on Ferrari and Formula One, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel to stay in the loop. With that said, let's dive straight into the full breakdown. Let's start with the complete roadmap Ferrari is working through during this summer break. Back in Maranello, the preparation work on the SF26 for the first 2 races after the break is intense. According to motorsport.com Italy, the plan is for general updates tailored to the specific demands of Zandvoort to arrive first, followed at Monza by the upgraded ADUO 2 power unit. The Dutch weekend runs from August 21st to 23rd, while the Italian Grand Prix at Monza takes place from September 4th to 6th. Both events are considered potentially decisive. Zandvoort is another circuit without long straights where Ferrari's strengths should come to the surface. But nobody is daring to call the red car the favorite after the disaster in Hungary, where Leclerc finished 4th and Hamilton 5th, failing to even reach the podium. Now let's look at what's happening behind the scenes with the ADUO 2 engine. Endurance tests on the dyno are still ongoing to make sure the reliability target is met, because the performance gains must not compromise the durability of the 0676 in any way. Gualtieri's engineers have a huge amount riding on Monza, and this second upgrade allowed by the Federation for the turbocharged 6-cylinder has the explicit ambition of meaningfully reducing the power deficit to Mercedes. The testing cycle is proceeding as planned, and the expectation is to complete all checks before the Italian Grand Prix weekend. The team's official position is that the performance improvement must not come with even the slightest reduction in durability, especially given that any further failure could expose Hamilton or Leclerc to a dreaded grid penalty. And now we get to the most fascinating part, the pure technical side. The new unit will feature substantial updates to the combustion chamber, allowing intake temperatures to be pushed even further. The turbo will also see significant changes in this new Ferrari specification, with the snail housing keeping the small diameter traditionally preferred by the Scuderia, but with revised blade count and angle for better filling at higher revs. The declared goal is to reduce the power gap that has shown up so heavily on the straights throughout the first part of the season. It's a surgical intervention targeting the most delicate components of the engine, the ones that can genuinely make the difference between closing the gap to Mercedes and continuing to give away horsepower on the fast sections. Monza is clearly one of the ideal venues for this debut, given the enormous power demand and the long straights at the Temple of Speed. And here's where Ferrari's massive strategic advantage really comes into focus. Hamilton and Leclerc have used only 3 engines each so far, while over at Mercedes, both Antonelli and Russell have already consumed all 4 power units allowed by the regulations for the 2026 season. This means Ferrari can comfortably introduce the ADUO 2 engine without any grid penalty, while any attempt by the Silver Arrows to bring in their own ADUO would cost both Brackley drivers a very heavy penalty. Worth noting, though, both Ferrari drivers have already reached the allowed limit of 3 MGU-K units, energy stores, and control electronics, with 2 exhausts and 2 other auxiliary components still available before penalties kick in for those categories. Managing the engine pool is therefore even more delicate than it might appear. And now we get to the real bombshell that's shaking the entire paddock. Mercedes had initially suggested they were planning to save the ADUO for 2027, but the latest reports are talking about an evolved M17E performance power unit already in preparation. The Brackley team earned the right to this update because the Federation's reference power unit is the Red Bull Ford 6-cylinder, which means Mercedes still has room to improve against that benchmark. In Brixworth 2, engineers are working very hard on the combustion chamber and turbo, paired with a new and even more potent Petronas fuel. The engineers led by Hywell Thomas are targeting a less extreme power usage curve at peak revs, a change that also directly addresses reliability, which has been the real Achilles heel for Mercedes in the first part of this season. And here's the most striking technical point in this whole story. Antonelli and Russell have already completely used up all 4 power units allowed for the entire 2026 championship, meaning every single replacement would trigger a 20-place grid penalty. That's an enormous price to pay at any circuit on the calendar, but not every track is equal when it comes to how much a penalty actually hurts. That's precisely why Monza would represent the tactically best opportunity for Mercedes to make the switch. Because the Temple of Speed is one of the circuits in Formula One where overtaking is most feasible. Antonelli could therefore surprise everyone by taking the ADUO engine right at Monza, accepting a grid drop in the knowledge that a more powerful engine would restore superiority over Ferrari once the race gets going. And now we arrive at a genuinely remarkable technical paradox between these 2 title contenders. Mercedes is paying a heavy price in terms of reliability, with 3 cooked batteries, 1 completely broken engine, and several energy management bugs. A serious limitation in the very area that was supposed to be Brackley's greatest strength. Ferrari, on the other hand, has benefited from extraordinary engine durability, having used 1 fewer power unit than their rivals. Gualtieris engineers are optimistic about narrowing the power deficit, which would allow Hamilton and Leclerc to fully exploit the SF26 clear superiority in chassis and aerodynamics. With 50 points ahead in the driver's standings and 72 in the constructors, Mercedes remains firmly in control, but the second half of the season could deliver some very significant twists. We close with the words of caution coming directly from Brackley. Mercedes is enjoying the advantage built up in the first part of the season, but nobody inside the team considers the 2026 title already wrapped up. During the latest episode of the new Silver Arrows radio show, engineer Simone Resta and Bradley Lord explained why the team prefers not to focus too much on the standings. Reflecting on what this team has achieved over the last 2 years, the progress has been truly remarkable, said Resta. We went through some difficult moments, then last year we made an important step forward, and this year an even bigger one. It was never a given. Then came the most important line from Resta. We need to focus 1 weekend at a time. The priority is to maximize every race, improve reliability, bring updates, and extract everything from the car. A very clear message that shows just how seriously Mercedes is taking the prospect of Ferrari coming back strongly in the second half of the season. This fight is far from over,